Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour is MTG about to join the Democrat Party. And did somebody try to throw a Molotov cocktail at a Seattle strip joint? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
So yesterday, decided to drive on out and meet Scott Presler. My friends at Let's Go Washington asked me to come on out for their event. They are gathering signatures for two initiatives. They are gathering signatures for one, to make sure that parents know what's going on with their kids in public schools. The other one is to keep men out of women's sports. This event was held at Gig Harbor High School, and we were talking about it a lot last week, how a lot of Democrats were trying to stop the event, but it ended up going through. And then we found out Scott Presler, who's the guy who turned Pennsylvania red by targeting voting groups, voting blocks of people, or rather demographic blocks of people who don't normally vote, like the Amish, for example, getting them out to the polls, and he was able to swing Pennsylvania for President Trump. So he's here in Washington, and he's pushing an initiative trying to make sure that we get voter ID on the ballot. That one's being run by the Washington State GOP. So you've got his, which is about voter ID, the GOP's, which is about voter ID, the two from Let's Go Washington, one about keeping men out of women's sports, and one about parental rights. So I head on out to Gig Harbor High School, and last week we knew about this Red Cup Rebellion. What's this? The Starbucks baristas have decided they are not being treated well enough, that they are not getting paid enough. So a whole bunch of them, a lot here in Seattle, have decided to go on strike to fight the corporation. Now, me, I usually look at it and I try to be a little objective, but the Starbucks baristas are absolutely insufferable, so I'm on Team Starbucks before anything else, and I'm not even a big coffee drinker. You know, there's a percentage of the population where coffee tastes like dirt to them? That is me. So I get the girliest coffee order in the world. It's a white mocha with oat milk, because apparently that makes me feel better about getting fat from having whole milk. Yeah, just to cover the taste of the stuff in the coffee. Mike's face is all scrunched up. He's like, that's what you're drinking when you come in now? Yes, it is horrible. It is awful. It is terrible. But when I need a little espresso because I was working late at night, that's what I get because it tastes so awful to me. Anywho, yesterday, my friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram hooked me up with a new Ram 1500. And I said, let's take this baby out to Gig Harbor. We'll do a nice drive. I love the drive to Gig Harbor with the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. Let's take that sucker. Let's go on out there. And I decide on the way to stop at a Starbucks and pick up my nasty coffee order that I like. And as I'm coming back, I'm thinking to myself, and we'll do more later. I got an interview with Scott Presler. I've got what I said at the event. We'll do those later. But as I'm coming back, I'm thinking to myself, what do these baristas actually make at Starbucks? What do they actually make? So I went online and I went to the Starbucks website, where it literally lists all the incentives you get as a Starbucks barista. Now, there is something important to mention before any of this. Being a barista is not a career path. That is meant as an entry-level job to either work your way up the corporate ladder or to pay for college or something else. It is not meant to be your life career of being a barista. Maybe when you retire, you want to go be a barista because you want something to do with your day. It is not back-breaking work, having done it, not at Starbucks, but at other places. So, the question is here, why do they think they are underpaid? Let's pull up what I got off the Starbucks website. Starbucks baristas in Seattle average about $25 an hour, ranging from $20 an hour to $30 an hour. Baristas also get free or heavily subsidized health coverage, medical, dental, vision, basic life insurance, and more. They get a 401k retirement savings plan with an employer match. The Starbucks College Achievement Plan, because it's designed for people to, go to school and not be baristas when they're my age, gives eligible partners tuition coverage for a first bachelor's degree. Paid time off and options like backup childcare and commuter benefits. Pay increases, differentiated pay for tenure. For example, as of January 1st, eligible U.S. retail hourly partners will receive at least a 3% base pay increase, 4% for 2 to 5 years of service, 5% for 5+ years. That's aside from the free coffee. Oh, they get free Spotify, by the way. I don't know why they get free Spotify. Some kind of partner thing, they get that, and other perks like that. Like the people who work at Microsoft, they get all these perks with their Prime card. I know, you would think that's Amazon, but it was before Amazon existed. Never mind the tips on top of all that. This strike, I don't know what you want. It is not meant to be a career path. It is not back-breaking labor. If you said we have to deal with all the drug addicts in the bathroom, then you might have a point. That I understand.
I don't know, brother. It sounds like I'm in the mood for a career change because that all sounds awesome.
These are good perks. This is better than most of these other places pay. In fact, I'd say it's better than a lot of corporate places pay. Exactly. So, you ask yourself right now, you say, what are they mad about? Well, they're mad they don't own the company. Buy shares then. Okay? Take your Starbucks earning, buy shares. You still won't own the company. I'm sorry you're not Howard Schultz and decided that you can create this big company. I'm sorry you're mad that the CEO makes more money than you do. I assume his life is a little bit more strenuous than you, like making sure you all get paid every week. Do you know the most stressful day in any business owner or CEO's life? Do you know the most stressful day? And if you're a business owner or a CEO, it comes around once every 2 weeks. It's payday. You got to make sure it's there. You see this huge amount of money going out the door. So Katie Wilson, last week, right after getting her acceptance speech, she goes down and she joins these lunatics who are protesting in Seattle, basically saying, yeah, let's take on the man. People got mad when I posted this video because I said Starbucks is a hometown company. Hey, fools, it wasn't just created here. Their offices are on First Avenue South, across from Home Depot. Giant building with a mermaid on top of it. Is there any reason that building has to be in Seattle? Any reason at all? You might not remember this, but last year, Starbucks corporate had massive layoffs. Why do you think the massive layoffs were here in Seattle? I assume there's economic factors, but on top of that, you also have all the taxes they hit the high income earners with. So they will move them somewhere else. They don't need to be here. I have friends who got laid off who worked for Starbucks corporate. Those jobs do not need to be here. You might drive down the street one day and go, oh, that's where Sears used to be, which is where Amazon used to have an Amazon Go, which is where Starbucks used to be. Now that's all gone. Hey, why does the top of that building kind of look like the Starbucks mermaid? Well, let me tell you, grandson, that's because that used to be the Starbucks corporate headquarters. They don't need to be here. And Katie Wilson antagonizing them, demonizing them, is going to cost you more jobs. And when they move out, that's less tax revenue. That's less money for services. Over the weekend, a lot of people were saying to me, Ari, what's the worst she could really do? And they were asking because they are truly scared. But they said, really, what can she do? And I said, from a practical standpoint, here's what our socialist mayor-elect could actually do. 1, a whole bunch of police officers are going to quit. A whole bunch of them have already told me this. When their retirement is in, they're out of here. Some of them are thinking they might need to transfer. That's problem number 1. 2, a lot of people aren't going to want to be police officers anymore. Number 2, she's going to stop the sweeps, which means no more homeless encampment sweeps. And I don't know, if you people texted me this morning saying their commute was worse than it's ever been, I think that's just because it's fall and that's after the election and that's when they stop cleaning things up anyway. I don't think that's because of Katie Wilson. She's not in office yet. Can't blame her for that yet. But Bruce Harrell wasn't doing such a great job of that. That's just the cycle of how things work around here. 3, taxes. What she can do is raise taxes because the Seattle City Council will go along with it because a whole bunch of socialists are there as well. That's what can really happen. And if they raise taxes, who are they always saying they're going to tax? The corporations, tax the rich. Well, when they leave, who do you think they're going to want the money from? How many businesses are going to leave? And all those Starbucks employees, guess what? They buy things. And if they're not buying things anymore, they're moving because they don't have jobs here anymore. Things are going to get worse. All of that leads in a direction of things are going to get worse crime-wise here. You're going to have an increase in crime. Things are going to get infinitely worse around here right around the time you're preparing for the World Cup. That's what we're looking at right here. So President Trump got asked in the Oval Office today, well, what are you going to do with Katie Wilson? You going to do anything to Seattle? Because he literally has FIFA standing right there with him talking about the World Cup. They're supposed to be here this year. Here's what happened.
Mr. President, on the World Cup, if you would, Seattle and the World Cup. The new mayor-elect of Seattle is a Democratic Socialist. Seattle has
or beyond. I watched her.
Right, Seattle has
that's more than socialism.
Right, Seattle has 6 World Cup games. How close are you going to be watching that city with the crime in that city?
Well, if we think, and I'll have to speak to Johnny about this, but if we think that the mayor of L.A. is incompetent, everybody knows that. You know that I was there, I guess, 2 years ago, and we got all the federal permits taken care of, far more complex than the state permits and the city permits. And Lee Zeldin, who's a superstar, got everything taken care of. The toughest part, having to do with the fires, that should have never happened. If they let the water come in, it wouldn't have happened, right? Do you know that people aren't building their houses yet? I mean, can you imagine that? And if we didn't go in early on, Christy, I think we can say it. Well, the head of their police department said it. They were unable to handle. You would have had, not only did you have the fires, but you would have had total insurrection in Los Angeles. And if we didn't go in, and the head of, the gentleman, he said it, and he said it strongly, he said we could not have done it without the federal government. We did a great job. If we think there's going to be a sign of any trouble, I would ask Johnny to move that to a different city. We have a lot of cities that would love to have it number one, and we'll do it very safely. So if we think there's a problem in Seattle where you have a very, very liberal/communist mayor, I would say, it's certainly beyond just liberal. I watched her over the weekend. Wow, that's another beauty we got there. But if we think there's going to be a problem, Johnny, can I say we will move? I don't think you're going to have this problem, but we're going to move the event to some place where it's going to be appreciated and safe.
Yeah, well, I think safety and security is the #1 priority for a successful World Cup. We can see today that people have trust in the United States when we see at the ticket sales, we sold, record-breaking figures of tickets, almost 2 million already sold out of 2 million that we have been selling. This is because people, they know that they will be coming here and they will experience a safe and secure World Cup. This is the responsibility, of course, of the government, of Secretary Norm, of everyone. And obviously, we will discuss. We are working together. We have a task force for this, and we must ensure that all fans coming from abroad or being here, they can experience a celebration of coming together of the sport, and this goes only with 100% safety.
Exactly. What's one of the first things Katie Wilson will likely do? Affect the police department. Increase the amount of drug addicts coming here. Bruce Harrell said over 70% of the people on our streets are not from Seattle. And what that means is when you incentivize it more, because Katie Wilson's going to do that, you get more drug addicts, you get more people who are mentally incapacitated, and what do you get? Less police at the same time. Now, for those of you who are about to freak out about the World Cup moving over politics, first of all, it's a safety issue. But number two, didn't they move the All-Star game out of Atlanta because they didn't like Georgia's new voting laws? I seem to remember that. In fact, I remember that being a huge deal at the time. Did I agree with it? Of course not. I thought it was stupid. But before all of you freak out about the World Cup moving, just know, didn't hear a whole bunch of you freaking out when the Democrats did that to Atlanta. Looking ahead at the World Cup, I remember during the All-Star game, during Taylor Swift, they clear out the area where the hotels are, they clean out the area where the stadiums are, and they push them everywhere else. And now you don't have the officers to go patrol those other areas, so crime goes up in those other areas because the police officers are watching whatever the big event is downtown. It seems like President Trump may not have been following the Seattle election so closely because he had the same revelation Elaine had when she realized she was dating a commie.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am.
Oh, whoa, a commie.
Yes, that's what he's looking at when he looks at Katie Wilson. In fact, now there's all these comparisons saying she's worse than Zoran Mamdani. Is she that big of a communist?
Yep, big communist, big communist.
Oh.
Here's the thing. She's dumber than him. And as a result, more people are going to be able to use her for whatever their purposes are. Like the entire cast of characters who she has endorsing her, who are likely going to be part of the administration. Somebody like, oh, gee, Tammy Morales?
Look, you take that commie crap out to the street.
That's who's probably going to be in her administration. Look, guys, okay, you want to do this kind of stuff, go experiment with somebody else's city.
Fine, you want to be a communist? Be a communist. Can't you at least look like a successful communist?
Yeah, Katie Wilson does not look like a successful communist. Well, actually, maybe she does. I don't know. I mean, they don't have a lot of money for clothing in communist countries. But here's the thing, guys, is that if the city isn't safe, they might actually have to do this. And when Katie Wilson was asked, what can the city do to prepare for the World Cup, I take you back to the debate that was just 3 weeks ago against Bruce Harrell. She was asked point blank about the World Cup. Do you know how many logistics it takes to plan this? Do you know the logistics that go into this? Here's a basic one. Where are the porta potties coming from? Where are the porta potties? That's a basic one. Well, she wants bathrooms everywhere, public restrooms everywhere, right? So, what did she say when she was asked about the World Cup during that debate?
The World Cup, famously, is coming to the city of Seattle next summer, and I wanted to know what in the lead up to the World Cup can the city do, using that momentum to drive something politically, but also community-wise.
I mean, I'm very interested in thinking through the improvements we can make to our public space and to our transit system, kind of in the lead up to the World Cup. And of course, there's all the complex issues related to homelessness in downtown core and adjacent neighborhoods. But I think on a lighter note, I used to years ago play a lot of pickup soccer in Seattle, just kind of in parks, and I just love that culture of just like people coming together who don't even necessarily know each other, and having soccer game, right?
That's your answer. I love soccer. I love pickup soccer. That's your answer of how we're going to deal. Well, I know there's all these logistics and stuff, but I love soccer. You know what the correct answer for that is? We're going to have the most amount of police officers to make sure everybody is safe. We're going to make sure we have the most amount of hygiene facilities, restrooms, everything. We're going to make sure we have all the businesses. We're going to bring the businesses back downtown so everybody has restaurants. Seattle is a world-class city. Look at that. Instead, it's I like soccer. This is insane. Absolutely insane. And if they yank the World Cup, I'll feel bad. I'll feel bad because a lot of businesses are actually counting on that money now, especially still trying to make up for COVID. But now they won't have that because it might get moved, because by this time next year, what do you think the city's going to look like under a mayor, Katie Wilson? Speaking of what this city looks like, when we come back, my friends, one of the craziest stories I've ever heard in crime in a while. Apparently, a man is now under arrest after planting a fake Molotov cocktail at a Seattle strip joint. We'll tell you about this craziness when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Seattle police arrested a 34-year-old man early Wednesday morning after he allegedly made a fake Molotov cocktail, threatened to burn down a strip club, hurled anti-Semitic slurs at an employee, and signed his name with a swastika. According to a redacted police report obtained by Jewish news syndicate intrepid reporter Jessica Hoffman, the suspect, identified as Samuel Benson Cooney, was detained shortly after 1:27 a.m. on November 12th, following a series of incidents that began at the Citizen M Hotel on Yesler Way. At 12:23 a.m., hotel employees called 911 to report that a guest had been seen leaving the building holding a bottle with a cloth in it, which appeared to be a Molotov cocktail. Officers arrived within minutes, but could not locate the man. Hotel staff provide police with CCTV camera footage showing Cooney carrying what looked like a Molotov cocktail, and that they had already asked Cooney to leave the property due to erratic behavior and had deactivated his room key. How bad do you got to be to get thrown out of a hotel in Seattle? A friend of Cooney's told police that Cooney was acting really weird and saying things that did not make any sense. Based on the footage, officers developed probable cause for weapons apparently capable of producing bodily harm. That's a really long charge there, guys. That's what it's actually called. Cooney was found walking near First Avenue and Seneca Street. After being read his Miranda rights, he told police he had deliberately made his water bottle look like a Molotov cocktail because he thought it would be funny. Interesting joke. He said the bottle contained only water and pills and that he had left it outside Showgirls, the big strip joint on First Avenue that you see right across from the Pike Place Market. While speaking with officers, Cooney allegedly said he wanted to cleanse the world of pedophiles. So, okay. You know what? I don't even want to get in the head of some crazy guy. Officers found a bottle outside the club and noted that it could easily be mistaken for an incendiary weapon. Police placed Cooney under arrest for malicious placement of an intimidation device. When the police returned to Showgirls, coming back to Showgirls, to interview the witnesses, right, guys? Staff told responding officers that Cooney had consumed a couple of alcoholic beverages and then began berating employees, demanding to know, when will the hot girls arrive? Only in Seattle. This is insane. A dancer told police that Cooney directed anti-Semitic insults at her, apparently based on his belief that she was Jewish. According to the officer's report, Cooney accused her of being after his money and then said, Mazel Tov, B-word, and signed his receipt with a swastika. So does that make it a Mazel Tov cocktail? Is that what we're talking about here? Staff said they removed him from the club, at which point he allegedly threatened to burn the club down. I'm going to burn down the building. Not by me, but by my Nazi friends. During a search of the suspect, officers found sketches in Cooney's pocket, a Star of David, and a rope tied like a noose. Cooney told officers there was nothing illegal about the drawings, but the arresting officer noted that together with the statements, they contributed to probable cause for a hate crime offense involving anti-Semitism. Because the specific hate crime charge did not exist in the jail booking system, officers booked him under felony harassment with notations referencing the hate crime applicability. This is my problem with hate crimes. I don't care if the guy's anti-Semitic. I care that he brought what looked like a Molotov cocktail trying to scare people to an establishment in Seattle. That's all that should matter here. The rest of it should not matter. And watch, this stuff's probably going to get dismissed. According to jail records referenced in the report, Cooney has a documented criminal history, which includes hate crime offenses, felony harassment, assault of a child, and multiple other counts of assault. Seattle police told JNS that their bias crimes coordinator had been notified and would review the case. A search of the suspect's alleged social media accounts revealed Nazi imagery and images glorifying Luigi Mangione. Oh, this guy just sounds first class, right? Yeah, an absolute crazy person. But you know what the problem is going to be? The problem is going to be they're going to get so hung up on the hate crime aspect of this that they're going to forget that this guy made a fake Molotov cocktail to scare people. This is the problem with the hate crimes and bias charges. Meanwhile, in other news, Seattle police officers arrested a 38-year-old convicted murderer who was found armed and asleep next to a bottle of liquor in a South Lake Union hotel lobby. Oh, our hotels are lots of fun. Can't wait for the World Cup. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun down there. According to Como News, the arrest took place on November 13th at approximately 8:43 a.m. when patrol officers responded to reports of a man with a gun inside the hotel located on Boren Avenue. According to the police report, the man was sleeping and possibly intoxicated with a bottle of liquor beside him. Officers took him into custody without incident. The man, who has previous violent felony convictions, is currently on active Department of Corrections supervision for second-degree murder and is prohibited from possessing guns, making this a violation of his supervised release. How supervised was it if he got a gun? He's released for murder. Do you see a theme here? Prolific offenders being released? And we're about to have Erica Evans be our Seattle city attorney, who doesn't believe in prosecuting crime. These stories are going to become more and more common as the revolving door of justice starts spinning faster and faster and faster again. That's what's about to happen, Seattle. Congratulations, we did this to ourselves. We really did. Whole bunch of lefties ran for office. Whole bunch of people who were more moderate decided we want to be the lefties and tried to get the lefty vote and failed dramatically. Speaking of people trying to get the lefty vote, Marjorie Taylor Greene has lost her ever-loving mind, and it's so bad that now Democrats are asking her to join their party. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Somebody came up to me at the event in Gig Harbor yesterday with Scott Presler for Let's Go Washington and the Washington GOP initiatives, and they said, Ari, what happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene? And I said, nothing happened to her. She's always been completely crazy. And they said, no, but now she's bashing President Trump. And I said, well, yeah, she's lost all support from President Trump, so now she's trying to get support elsewhere. This MAGA civil war that's going on right now, you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Steve Bannon all trying to be the new heads of MAGA. And it's not because Charlie Kirk got assassinated. That may have sped things up a little bit. But it's like they're all acting like it's the last year of the Trump presidency. And they all want to be the ones who are in charge of the movement. And yet the way they think they're going to be in charge of the movement is going against the stuff that President Trump does. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is being invited on every leftist outlet because she's their new hero. Oh, she got wronged by Trump. She got wronged by Trump. Can we be real about what happened here for a second? Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to run for the U.S. Senate. Georgia, we know we've had issues with those Senate seats before. Georgia, purple. If we want to get those Senate seats, you need somebody who doesn't alienate anybody. President Trump, the RNC, had polling done on Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it showed she would lose the Senate seat by 20 points. 20 points. People may like her as a firebrand. That doesn't mean they like her everywhere in the state. This is something AOC is probably looking at, which is if she runs for statewide office, will she get elected or will she get blown out? President Trump likes winners. He doesn't want to get blown out by 20 points because then what is the headline? Trump-supported firebrand Marjorie Taylor Greene loses by 20 points. He doesn't want that. So he said, sorry, I can't back you. And now she's losing her mind over it. Absolutely losing her ever-loving mind. This is what she said on Sunday.
The president says he's withdrawing support for you, encouraging primary challengers. You were one of his biggest supporters. What do you think happened here?
Well, Dana, thank you for having me on, and that is true. I stood with President Trump when virtually no one else did. Campaigned all over the country, spent millions of my own dollars helping him get elected, and I think that's incredibly important. And
Hang on. Quick question here. Quick question. Marjorie Taylor Greene was worth $700,000 when she came into office, 5-6 years ago? How does she have millions of dollars to spend on a political campaign? Can we just start right there? I looked up her old PDC filings. She was worth $700,000. Either she was lying on that, or she's lying on this, or magically, somehow in the last few years, she was getting stock tips from Nancy Pelosi.
I do support him and his administration, and I support them in delivering the campaign promises we made to the American people. His remarks, of course, have been hurtful. However, I have something in my heart that I think is incredibly important for our country, and that is to end the toxic fighting in politics. And this has been going on for years, and it has divided our country, split up friends and families.
Hang on. Wasn't she the one screaming at Joe Biden during the State of the Union on multiple occasions? Isn't she the one going out there ranting and raving about pedophiles? Isn't she the one who did a whole Facebook post with anti-Semitic conspiracy theories claiming that this big Jewish family named the Rothschilds had a space laser they were using to start California wildfires so that they could build a light rail through California? But she's the big healer in chief, right? That's what she wants to be? Give me a break.
Neighbors, and it's not solving our problems. The most hurtful thing he said, which is absolutely untrue, is he called me a traitor, and that is so extremely wrong, and those are the types of words used that can radicalize people against me and put my life in danger.
Oh, stop! That's the same stuff you used to say about Joe Biden. Traitor Joe. You were one of the worst ones. You said people weren't MAGA enough. Are you kidding me with this nonsense? She sounds like a lefty. She sounds so much like a lefty. You've got Democrats in Congress inviting her to be part of the Democrat Party. What set her off? This is what President Trump wrote on Truth Social. I'm withdrawing my support and endorsement of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of the great state of Georgia. Over the past few weeks, despite my creating record achievements for our country, including a total and complete victory on the shutdown, closed borders, low taxes, no men and women's sports, or transgender for everyone, ending DEI, stopping Biden's record-setting inflation, biggest regulation cuts in history, stopping 8 wars, rebuilding our military, being respected by every country in the world as opposed to being the laughingstock we were just 12 months ago, having trillions of dollars, record-setting, invested in the USA, and having created the hottest country where anyone in the world, when we came in the world from being a dead country just 12 months ago. All I see is wacky Marjorie do is complain, complain, complain. It seemed to all begin when I sent her a poll stating that she should not run for senator or governor. She was at 12% and didn't have a chance, unless, of course, she had my endorsement, which she wasn't about to get. She has told many people that she is upset that I don't return her phone calls anymore, but with 219 congressmen/women, 53 U.S. senators, 24 cabinet members, almost 200 countries, and otherwise normal life to lead, I can't take a ranting lunatic's call every day. I understand that wonderful conservative people are thinking about primarying Marjorie in her district of Georgia, and that they too are fed up with her and her antics. And if the right person runs, they will have my complete and unyielding support. She has gone far left, even doing The View with their low IQ, Republican-hating anchors. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. I love this guy. This is what I voted for. I was worried about people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is what I voted for. And she's showing her true colors. She's showing her true colors because she has spent the last few months trashing President Trump. Now, you want to disagree with President Trump? That's fine. We do it here all the time. It seems like she's on the other side with this. It just seems like she's completely supporting the Democrats. And she's been not so subtle about making insinuations about the Epstein stuff about Trump being in it when there's no evidence to suggest that he was part of this at all. Tell me the difference between Marjorie Taylor Greene and a Democrat. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from our frenemy, Bennett the Protester. Bennett, what's going on? Good to see you yesterday.
Wait, is it bad to call people traitor now? Because you called Chuck Schumer a traitor, you called Pramila Jayapal a traitor, and so.
And I stand by, and I still stand by those words. But Bennett, that's not what you called about. What did you call about, Bennett? Get to it.
No, indeed. So, yeah. So I've got your invitation that you put out on the radio. You said, if you're a Democrat, come on down. In fact, if you're a Democrat, I'll talk to you first. You can tell me everything you disagree with on these issues. That was from the show last Wednesday. So as you are aware, I went down there. I wanted to go in and, I wasn't keeping any secret about who I was. I figured you would see me and recognize me, but I was hoping to just go in and
Bennett,
have one-on-one conversation.
Did you see me until I left? Did you see me until I left? Bennett, did you see me till I left? Who are you standing next to, by the way?
When I went in the first time, I saw you inside the gym briefly, and then I went out into the hallway. I saw you in person. It was about 1:30.
Did I see you, Bennett?
You didn't see me. I'm saying that.
Okay, so what are we talking about here, Bennett? The guy next to you yesterday is being accused of allegedly assaulting employees of Let's Go Washington. Apparently, you may have been next to him when that happened. I'm not accusing you of that at all. At all. I don't have a problem with you being at events. I wasn't the one running the door. I went in. I gave speeches. If you're mad you didn't get inside, don't get mad at me over this, Bennett. I had nothing to do with it.
Well, I'm not blaming you. I'm saying if it had been up to you, you probably would have let me in. And I said I went and I wanted to go and have one-on-one conversations with people, and they were like, how about no?
Well, thank you for pulling that soundbite there, Bennett. But remember, we spoke about no playing sounds on the air, dude. We can't do that. But Bennett, if you want to have these conversations, okay, talk to them about it. There was an issue of security because there was another guy there who was allegedly assaulting their employees. In fact, I'm waiting for the police record of what actually happened. They had legit security concerns yesterday. So if you have issues with that, then I recommend that next time we find a way to mitigate them. But that is what happened yesterday. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, we have this crazy story where apparently a teacher around here was told she couldn't wear a shirt because it had Charlie Kirk's name on it. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So a woman in our area wanted to wear a red Freedom t-shirt, the kind Charlie Kirk was wearing except in red. It says Freedom across it. It's got American flag on the side. And on the front of it, it also has Charlie Kirk's name and signature. She wanted to wear this shirt for Veterans Day. Okay, maybe because of the American flag or whatever. We'll get into that in a second. We'll discuss that in a second. But first, here's a report for what happened when she wore this thing to school by our friend Jonathan Cho reporting for Frontlines.
I can use text features.
For nearly 30 years, Trish McCoy has faithfully served her students at Mountain View Elementary School in Shelton, Washington.
I teach second grade right now.
Without any issues.
Yes.
That is until she wore this red Freedom t-shirt in her classroom earlier this week.
I see it as a Christian movement.
McCoy thought it was appropriate in honor of Veterans Day.
It means a lot to me.
But she says some leftist teachers were actually triggered and offended by this.
It has the name Charlie Kirk on it.
I believe Christian charities and churches should step up.
Charlie Kirk is the late co-founder of Turning Point USA, a massive conservative movement taking over college campuses across America. Kirk challenged students to open up their minds through discourse and debate.
Bring the best libs that Utah has to offer.
Regardless of their differences. And because of that, he was assassinated this past September, also wearing a T-shirt emblazoned with the word freedom.
So she was okay with the word freedom and the American flag, but the problem was Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk.
McCoy says the principal asked her to remove the shirt,
He was affiliated with Turning Point.
claiming it violated school guidelines for clothing because it could be interpreted as a political statement.
And I grabbed some tape and I said, I'll just put tape over his name.
No harm, no foul.
And she kind of nodded, okay.
But the story leaked into this small-town community, and it quickly went viral.
In our segment, Unbelievable,
Podcaster Brandy Cruz first reported on this controversy.
who constitutes a political figure and a political person? Because there would be so many other historical figures that you would then have to say are off limits if you're not allowing someone to wear something that says Charlie Kirk.
Once we start censoring one side, we've abandoned fairness.
And then several parents torched Shelton school district leaders at the school board meeting.
We have a school district where if people are offended, we capitulate to them to almost no end, it seems like.
I reached out to Mountain View Elementary Principal Lysandra Ness and District Superintendent Wyeth Jesse, asking if other teachers have been asked to cover up words or symbols on T-shirts that could be interpreted as political.
This moment is big.
Like a Black Lives Matter logo.
The largest pride event ever at the White House.
Or rainbow pride flag.
She's with another teacher?
Yeah.
Okay.
But none of them returned our requests for comment. They just posted the statement on social media that reads in part, "The district respects employees' First Amendment rights and appreciates the staff members' cooperation. We are reminding staff about state laws and district expectations regarding political expression and trust our employees to follow school board policies that uphold these commitments."
So you believe other teachers want to speak out in support of you, but are afraid to do so?
I think there are some.
McCoy says initially she did not want to speak out, fearing retaliation from her higher-ups.
Yeah, I just,
But realized she did absolutely nothing wrong.
even if it's uncomfortable, I hope other people speak up.
And says at this point, now's the time to stand for her Christian faith and convictions.
I'm sorry that it came to this, but I do hope it opens conversations.
Just like Charlie Kirk did, until the end.
I'd sure like to see our little community thrive again.
Not be divided by this.
So I'll say this, is that let's say you say for Veterans Day, I know that my school that I went to growing up had rules. We had a Spirit Week, and what Spirit Week was always before the Jewish version of Halloween, where you got to wear different costumes on certain days because it was in theme. If it wasn't in theme, you weren't allowed to wear it. Now, what they're saying here is, well, does it really have to do with Veterans Day? It's political. But hang on a second. I checked. This school has BLM signs. This school has pride signs. This school has everything else. Why are they offended by the Charlie Kirk thing? And if you guys want to say, well, we don't do politics at all, then get rid of the BLM stuff. Then get rid of the pride stuff. Then get rid of who knows what else is in that school. If you don't want to do political things, take down every picture of every president, every lawmaker. It's all political. This is the problem when you start saying this is okay, this is not okay. And was it worth the fight? Now you've got parents coming to school board meetings because some parent wore a teacher which had an American flag on it, which said freedom on it, which our veterans are the ones who provide that for us. And this woman wanted to wear it as a tribute to the veterans. So is it worth the fight, guys? Are you that triggered by Charlie Kirk's name that you didn't even want to see his name? Keep my friend's name out your T-shirt. I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And this is what happens when you start saying, this is allowed, this is not allowed. This is allowed, this is not allowed. And this triggers me. If they're like this, what are they teaching the kids? If this triggers them so much, you know what it could have been? It could have been, the principal could have said, can you do me a favor? And next year you want to wear something more veteran-y, fine. But the rest of the school building, all his teacher has to do is point to anything else in the school and go, why is the pride flag okay? Why is the BLM sign okay? And my T-shirt is not okay. If these far leftists didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. Coming up next, my friends, another truck wreck here in Washington. Was it another illegal with a CDL they shouldn't have had? We've got some interesting information for you. We'll give it to you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Another one.
Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, my exclusive interview with Scott Presler, and Bob Ferguson was taken to the movies by the Seattle Times. But before we get to any of that, there was another truck rollover crash here in Washington. Now, let me give you the story first, and I know already what you're thinking. You're thinking, wasn't it illegal? Did he have a driver, a CDL, a commercial driver's license, even though he was an illegal alien? Well, let's do this journey together, shall we? A semi-truck rollover blocked all the lanes of northbound I-5 in Castle Rock for several hours Sunday before crews partially reopened the highway, according to the Washington State Department of Transportation. The crash occurred around milepost 49 near Powell Road in Cowlitz County. The State Department of Transportation said law enforcement and emergency crews responded to the scene. The Washington State Patrol cited the truck driver for negligent driving, according to a patrol press memo. All northbound lanes were initially closed, and travelers were directed to use exit 49 for Castle Rock and tunnel to the detour of the collision, the Transportation Department said. Crews later moved the rolled-over semi-truck to the right lane, reopening the left and center lanes. Workers unloaded the truck's cargo to prepare it for tow recovery, while the right lane remained blocked. The Transportation Department cleared the alert at 4:05 p.m., indicating the incident had been resolved. Motorists experienced delays throughout the day as crews worked to clear the scene. Well, that's very unhelpful, but thank you, KGW. That has very little information. Makes it sound like just another accident. Well, there's a guy over on social media, goes by the name Matt Morse. I have not checked him out. I don't know who he is, but I did see this post of his. Vehicle 1 was traveling northbound I-5 at milepost 49. Vehicle 1 left the roadway, lost control, and struck the guardrail, coming to a rest, blocking all three lanes. Incident persons, Mokdeep Singh, age 25, Queens, New York, role driver. So immediately I start having the questions. Now, we've done this story a bunch of times already. So I immediately reached out to the Washington State Patrol, haven't gotten an answer yet, waiting for an answer back from the Department of Transportation as well. Because what have we found out in these accidents more often than not? That the person who was driving the thing should never have been driving the thing. These things are massive bombs on wheels. They can kill people. They have killed people. We have the guy who got the Washington State CDL in Florida, got it here, and then upgraded it in California using the one he got here, and then got into a horrible accident in Florida where he made an illegal U-turn, killing people. Another one of these guys was under the influence, didn't even brake, sandwiched a car between another truck. Issue after issue, incident after incident after incident, people who should never have had these licenses in the first place. We found out last week that California was suspending 17,000 CDLs after claiming, no, we don't do that. We don't issue them to illegal aliens. Well, then why are you suspending 17,000 in one day? We know that a school called Skyline CDL had branches in California, Oregon, and Washington, and that they were fraudulently issuing hundreds of these licenses. We're still digging into if these guys were certified through there. Now, as of right now, I'll just do one more quick check of my email, refresh. As of right now, I've not heard back from the Department of Transportation or the Washington State Patrol. The Washington State Patrol is usually pretty good about getting back to me. They may not even have the information yet, but I assume they do. Hopefully they get back to me when they see the email, and we know the details about this guy, and then we can ask ICE if this guy was in the country legally or not. However, this is an alarming pattern. Bill Malugin from Fox News said DHS confirmed that ICE has arrested an Uzbeki illegal alien, wanted, alleged terrorist, who is driving an 18-wheeler in Kansas and has been given a CDL by the state of Pennsylvania. 31-year-old Akror Bazorov has had an arrest warrant in Uzbekistan since 2022 for being a member of a terrorist organization and is accused of distributing terrorist propaganda, calling for jihad online, and recruiting terrorists. Oh, gee, I can't see how a semi-truck might be a big problem in the hands of somebody like that. Per DHS, he was caught and released at the border by the Biden administration in February of 2023. Remember how Karine Jean-Pierre and Jen Suckiatumi would always say, oh, no, the border is secure. And then you had Mayorkas coming up, the border is secure. You had that all, you remember that? Oh, well, then why were they releasing terrorists into the interior of our country? ICE arrested him on November 9th while he was working as a commercial truck driver. He was granted work authorization by the Biden administration in January of 2024, has a commercial driver's license issued by the state of Pennsylvania. How did a terrorist, a convicted terrorist, get to this country, get allowed into this country, and then get a driver's license? I always thought it was insane when the Biden administration would claim they were properly vetting people and they were doing full checks on people. I said, how? You're finding, the border agents are finding piles of IDs on the other side of the border where they ditch them before they come across. And yet somehow when they come across, our Border Patrol is accepting names like John Smith as their appropriate ID. DHS said in a statement to Fox, not only was Akor Brazorov a wanted terrorist released into the country by the Biden administration, but he was also given a commercial driver's license by Governor Shapiro's Pennsylvania. This should go without saying, but terrorist illegal aliens should not be operating 18-wheelers on America's highways. Biden and Mayorkas allowed countless terrorists to come into our country. President Trump and Secretary Noam unleashed ICE to target these national security threats. A terrorist who called for jihad online, who distributed terrorist propaganda, was driving an 18-wheeler truck on our highways. And he was in this country thanks to the Biden administration and issued a license by Governor Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. For those of you who think Shapiro's a moderate, he was doing this kind of stuff too. We have no idea who is on our freeways. We have no idea at all. As soon as I get the information on this driver on I-5, I will, of course, put it out on social media. Yeah, another reason I always subscribe to my social media channels, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on Twitter, but also listen 3 hours a day right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Because as soon as I get that information, I'll give it to you. I can already see which direction this is going in. Because he drifted off the highway, this guy, here in Washington, just randomly drifted. Did he fall asleep? Is it negligence? Did he just fall asleep? Was he under the influence? Was he looking at his cell phone? We don't know. We don't know. And this is not the only problem we're having, by the way. According to the New York Post, they're having these issues with rigged driver's licenses out in New York as well. A Big Apple driving school paid off DMV examiners to fraudulently fast-track driver's licenses for illegal immigrants, even if they had no clue how to drive. T&E Driving School in Queens took cash from Chinese immigrants, many of whom didn't even speak English, and paid off a crew of Department of Motor Vehicle employees on Staten Island to illegally obtain driver's licenses, according to the district attorney. The crackdown, dubbed Operation Road Test, took down the ring in a joint investigation with state investigators and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Quote, our investigation found that T&E Driving School blatantly flouted the laws and procedures that are necessary to ensure the public safety on the road, said the assistant special agent in charge for Homeland Security investigations in New York. As alleged, T&E utilized social media and strategic advertising to target exploited members of the Chinese community and guaranteed individual driver's licenses regardless of their immigration status, language, and even their ability to operate a vehicle. I've taught 2 kids how to drive cars, and now I'm working on the 3rd right now. That's funny, and this isn't meant to be sexist. A lot of boys, especially if you grew up in the Hoffman household, were all about cars. So my boys growing up, they always wanted to drive go-karts. They always wanted to drive video arcade games. They always wanted to do those kind of things. So they had a natural sense of the car. My daughter was never into any of those things, so you got to start from scratch. You got to completely start from scratch. Now let's assume there's somebody who doesn't know the language. Now let's assume it's somebody who can't even figure out how to operate that car. And they were not just putting them in the school, they were giving them the driver's licenses without putting them in the school. Putting them in the school is fine. Anybody can go to driver's school, assuming they're safe and well, now you don't even have to be a citizen of this country. Quote, moreover, these individuals were those who did not speak or understand English and may have believed that they were taking necessary and legitimate steps, which is even worse. They don't even know what they did wrong. That's like here in Washington, when a ballot comes to your house with your name on it, and you think you're not supposed to be voting, but then, hey, those election guys sent us a ballot. Why wouldn't we think we're allowed to vote? T&E owner Wexian Tan, Secretary Wiwen Tan, employee Wiwi Yang, and a school road test driver, Winifeng Yang, set up the scam by paying off DMV examiners according to the indictment, and they named the examiners here. The examiners would then rubber stamp the wannabe drivers without even having them take a road test. Oh, my New York road test. That's one of the scariest days of my life. This woman gets in the car. Oh, at the end, they're just writing. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I failed. And she looks at me and she goes, you didn't come to a complete stop at that last stop sign. I'm like, oh my God, did I fail? She's like, no, you got a 93. Oh, thank God. McMahon said the scam extends beyond the 7 named indictments, with 24 suspects in custody and another indicted DMV employee who was not identified in the 49-page document. They said the numbers, as we go through this investigation, as we go through the materials that have been seized, we think they are going to find hundreds, if not thousands, of people that have been part of this scam. The number of tests given by an individual examiner can be about 1,500 a year. 2 out of the 3 examiners have been working for 4 or 5 years. So we think this is just the tip of the iceberg. In a statement, McMahon called the pay-to-drive scheme a corrosively corrupt operation centered on DMV workers who brazenly betrayed their oaths of office. The defense were arraigned in a slew of fraud, tampering, and theft charges and were released. The charges are not eligible for bail under the state's controversial 2019 criminal justice reforms. However, they were ordered to surrender their passports. So people who put other people at risk were allowed to just go free because of bail reform. Hey, by the way, just like Washington, don't forget New York's controversial bail reform law was based on our stupid laws for the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program here, which literally in the name says they're trying to divert criminals out of jail, which continuously diverts prolific offenders. Now think about this. Think about any of those accidents that were caused by the people who they gave licenses to. I'll do you one better. What if, God forbid, one of these people caused the death of somebody and they shouldn't have been driving and they gave them the driver's licenses? Now are you looking at manslaughter charges too on top of all that? The sheer incompetence of this insanity is completely mind-boggling, completely mind-blowing to me. That this is the kind of stuff that was happening in the DMVs, but yet I'm not surprised anymore. I'm not surprised because it's been happening in the Washington one. And remember what the Democrats said, oh, we just want them to be able to get to work. We just want them to have driver's licenses. Look how bad this has gotten. 4 people dead that we know of. Democrats just want to put you at risk. Democrats just want to put your life in danger. We found this one out today. This is from the Department of Justice. A registered sex offender who cut off an ankle bracelet and committed more sex crimes against children was sentenced to 17 years in prison. Guess what? Now he's missing again because he cut off his ankle bracelet again. A 29-year-old registered sex offender who sexually exploited more than a dozen teens after cutting off his electric monitoring device and absconding from Department of Corrections community custody was sentenced in U.S. District Court in Seattle to 17 years in prison. According to U.S. Attorney Charles Neal Floyd, between February and April 2024, James Jake Harrison, newcomer, sexually abused teens he met via various social media platforms. At the sentencing hearing, U.S. District Judge John H. Choon said, these are heartbreaking crimes. The youngest victim was just 12 years old. This repeat offender is every parent's nightmare, the dangerous stranger who enters your home via the internet and steals your child's innocence. Having been convicted in state court of rape of a child, he had a chance to get treatment and turn his life around. Instead, he cut off his ankle monitor and preyed upon more than a dozen children for his own sexual gratification. At least now he will be off the street. Well, while that's all well and good, another one is now missing. Another one after cutting off their ankle bracelet. Gee, why do we have a place like McNeil Island where we can send level 3 sex offenders? Why do we have a place like that? So that things like this don't happen. Remember Bob Ferguson, Jay Inslee? Oh, yeah. No, we're going to depopulate McNeil Island. We don't want the level 3 sex offenders raided the most likely to reoffend, rated the worst of the worst to be on that island. We want everybody to have a share of this, so we're going to spread them out to unsuspecting communities all over Washington state. The Democrats supported this. Now, according to Como News, a registered sex offender who cut off his ankle monitor and committed further sex crimes against children across Washington and Oregon. This one, how many times does this have to happen? How many times does this have to happen? It's crazy at this point. This one's now on the loose, might be near Wenatchee. How many times does this have to happen before we realize that these Democrat policies are putting people at risk and putting people's lives in danger? How many times does this have to happen? It's again and again and again. And I, for one, am getting tired of it because these are avoidable problems. These are unforced errors. So you got to ask yourself, do they just want crime-ridden streets? Do they want sex offenders out? Well, because what happens is they could say, oh, well, if we tax you more, you'll be safer. Give us money for police officers and you'll be safer. What about Ferguson just doing the last budget cycle? He said, we're going to tax you all this money so they can have more police officers. And then we find out the money doesn't even have to go to law enforcement. It's just a scam to get your money. That is how greedy they are for your tax dollars. Plus, it's a sense of social justice where, oh, it's just because daddy didn't hug him enough as a child. Otherwise, maybe if he had been born with a different kind of skin color, then he might be okay. Whatever virtue signaling nonsense they claim, it's that as well. And it ruins people's lives. It puts people's lives at risk. How many times are we going to go through this? We don't have enough problems at home that now we got to import problems on top of that? It's a never-ending cycle. It's only going to get worse here in Seattle. When you have a mayor like Katie Wilson who wants to abolish the police, when you have Erica Evans as your Seattle city attorney who doesn't want to prosecute crime, when you have a Seattle city council which is controlled by socialists, the next 4 years are going to be a crazy ride. I wouldn't be surprised if President Trump yanks the World Cup out of Seattle. What's it going to be like after January 1? Crime after crime after crime after crime after crime. It's going to be like my first year on air when we were at the tail end of the Durkin administration. After the summer of love. Oh, I forgot. Katie Wilson loves them protesters. She was out protesting with them at Starbucks the other day. They support this insanity. It's only going to get worse. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, my friends, though it seems like it's all bad news in the immigration department. Don't worry, my friends. ICE is riding to the rescue. It's actually saving a bunch of children that were lost by the Biden administration. We'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Speaking of highways, we got a lot of comments on our last segment about those illegal CDLs. This one from Mike Kerb. He says, trucks, a friend of mine's sister works at the parks department of a travel plaza off the New York State Thruway. She said most of the drivers can barely speak English. They said, and Biden wanted to give CDLs to 18 years old. To 18-year-olds, what could possibly go wrong? Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, but we don't want to trust them with guns, but let's give them a semi-truck and see how that'll do. I shouldn't have even been trusted with a car when I was 18 years old. Jeff in Kent says those in the CDL scam should be fined at least $360,000. You know, the thing is, Jeff, they probably don't have it. They probably don't have it. However, some justice is being done. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem gave the numbers about how many illegal aliens we've gotten out of the country since Trump took office.
When you talk about people that have left this country using the CBP Home app, those who voluntarily left, those that we have actively detained and deported, that number is over 2 million people since the Trump administration has come into the White House. That is an incredible, record-shattering number of individuals who were here illegally that are now gone. And when you think about the ripple effects of that, the amount of resources that frees up to focus on the American citizens, it's remarkable the good work that President Trump has been able to do. I would say that by the end of this year, those individuals who have been detained or arrested and deported will be over 600 to 650,000, and then we include many more that are still voluntarily going home on their own as well.
That's great. Let's say it's 2.2 million. Let's say it's 2.2 million by the end of the year with the people who are self-deporting and everything else. Well, how many more people are actually going to self-deport after this year? The first year, you're going to get a big rush. Well, let's just say it's 2.2 million for every year of the Trump administration. That still comes up short with how many Joe Biden let into this country. And that was on top of whoever was here before Joe Biden became president. So as great as those numbers are, it's barely scratching the surface. And that's the problem with all this. Now, the Department of Homeland Security is dialing up its game. On Saturday, they announced they are surging resources to Charlotte, North Carolina. And over 130 people have been arrested as part of the Operation Charlotte's Web. I love it. A DHS spokesperson told WCNC, during the first 2 days of Operation Charlotte's Web, Border Patrol arrested over 130 illegal aliens who have all broken the immigration laws of our country. Criminal records of those arrested include known gang membership, aggravated assault, possession of a dangerous weapon, felony larceny, simple assault, hit and run, possession of stolen goods, shoplifting, DUI, DWI, and illegal reentry after a port deportation, a felony. You know what the left will say? Oh, well, nobody really got hurt during any of those. Those are mostly property crimes. You can't have the nuanced conversation with the left. They're not even interested in having it. I want to have the nuanced conversation. I know. I want to have the conversation where you say, okay, can we agree on the murderers? Can we agree on the murderers? Do you think the left would agree on that? How about the rapists? How about the child rapists? How about felonies? If we just say it's anybody with a felony, can they be deported? The left will never say yes. If the left said yes, this could be resolved. And you could say, okay, what about the people who came here illegally but haven't committed any crime since and have been living off the taxpayers? Can we come up with something? The people who would get mad about that are the legal immigrants who came to this country and did everything right. But is there something we can discuss there? The Democrats don't even want to have that discussion. The spokesperson for DHS added, "We will not stop enforcing the laws of our nation until every criminal illegal alien is arrested and removed from our country." They're even saying it. Criminal illegal alien. Criminal illegal alien. You know how many of these hoaxes I saw over the weekend where the left was claiming, you arrested a teacher, you arrested a mom, a dad, and every single one of them, the person had a violent history. The left hasn't learned their lesson yet. They just figure if they keep throwing this stuff out there, enough people will believe it. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino shared some of the arrests that took place on social media, including criminals with charges and or convictions for assault, DUI, and larceny. I mean, some of the worst of the worst. Honduran illegal alien with violent criminal history, including multiple assaults, shoplifting, aggravated felonies. Who's this guy? This illegal alien from Honduras had a criminal history, including aggravated assault with a dangerous weapon, and DUI, removed from the U.S. twice. Illegal aliens with criminals history, who was arrested on a felony larceny charges in North Carolina. had a warrant for failure to appear. That's a woman, by the way. They're not all men. On Sunday, Border Patrol and ICE agents were assaulted by a U.S. citizen in the midst of Operation Charlotte's Web. Quote, this individual, a U.S. citizen, assaulted Border Patrol and ICE agents with his vehicle in Charlotte. You don't hear the left-wing media talking about that. Agents ended up taking him into custody after a pursuit that saw him drive erratically, including off-road. He will face stiff consequences for assault, Bovino said. The DHS said that one law enforcement officer was injured in the incident. In announcing the launch of the operation, DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, friend of the show, said Americans should be able to live without fear of violent, criminal, illegal aliens hurting them, their families, or their neighbors. We are surging DHS law enforcement to Charlotte to ensure Americans are safe and public safety threats are removed. There have been so many victims of criminal, illegal aliens. President Trump and Secretary Noem will step up to protect Americans when sanctuary politicians don't. In a joint statement from the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, elected officials issued on Saturday, they said our organizations believe that diversity makes us stronger. And with that belief, we are unwavering in our commitment to a safe and welcoming community where everyone can grow and thrive. You guys let this happen for so long. Nobody's safe. They said that the Border Patrol's operations are causing unnecessary fear and uncertainty in our community, as recent operations in other cities have resulted in people arrested without criminal records being detained and violent protests being the result of unwarranted actions. Show them to me. No, show them to me. Really, show them to me. They like to just say this stuff. It doesn't make it actually true. It's okay to be detained when somebody's trying to verify your identity and then released. The statement later added, it's important for people to understand their rights. There have been a number of organizations standing ready to assist individuals. So these are officials trying to tell the population how to subvert U.S. law. That's what they're doing in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's what they're trying to do. When federal officials are trying to get rid of the murderers, the rapists, all these people who have felonies. This is going to continue through Trump's entire term, and you're just going to hear more and more crazy stories out of the left. The question is it going to resonate with the American public before the 2026 midterm elections? When we come back, my friends, I had a chance to talk to Scott Presler yesterday as he was doing his swing through Washington to get voter ID on the ballot here, so hopefully we can guarantee our elections. We'll have that for you when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. While you're there, rate and share so that way you and your friends never miss a minute of the show. Yesterday, Scott Presler came to Washington. You might know him. He's the tall, long-haired man who was able to flip Pennsylvania red in the last election by targeting demographics that typically don't show up to vote. So he's here in Washington, and he's working with the GOP to try and get voter ID, an initiative for voter ID, on the ballot. He came to an event that I was headlining for Let's Go Washington, and I had the chance to interview him. And this was our discussion. Give a listen. I am here with Scott Presler, who, by the way, I've been saying on my show, people who listen to my show know I've been saying, you are the man, and we wanted you to come out here for so long because we know your way of voter recruitment, voter registration really, really works.
Thank
so
you.
why'd you decide to do this? And especially, why'd you decide to do this in Washington, where so many people think it's a lost cause?
Well, I grew up in Virginia, and part of the reason why Virginia went from a red to the blue state is because of voter registration. And while the Democrats were recruiting thousands, and I mean hundreds of thousands of new voters, the Republican Party became stagnant. And I watched year after year that a once reliably red state for George Bush became an Obama state overnight like that. And I went, the only way that we're going to save our country, and dare I say, turn purple states red, or try to turn blue states into purple and then red, is through the vehicle of voter registration. So that's how I began my work. Now, here we are. Donald Trump is president. Republicans have the House. Republicans have the Senate. But we just got wiped out in the November election. And I'm worried about the midterms. How do I get big, beautiful turnout, especially in blue states like Washington? Well, we're going to give the people what they want. What do the people want? They want election integrity. So, God bless Representative/Chairman Jim Walsh for working to get proof of citizenship in order to get voter registration in the state of Washington. So as you can see behind you, what are we doing? We're at a Gig Harbor High School collecting signatures to give the people what they want, because legislators in we're in Washington, in Seattle, aren't going to give you what you want. Then we're going to do it via citizen-initiated petitions. And why I mentioned Salem is because we're going to Oregon, too, to end automatic vote by mail. We're going to California to get voter ID on the ballot. My message to the people in the West Coast is that people have the power, and this is what we need: concerned citizens, giving the people, stopping biological men out of women's sports, giving parents parental choice, and giving them election integrity, and that's why I'm here in Washington State.
I gotta say, you do phenomenal work, especially with these communities that a lot of people don't think to reach out to, like what you did in Pennsylvania with the Amish.
Thank you.
So are there specific communities you look at here in Washington, and you say, those are the communities I want to make sure I'm going to?
I am a little bit of a neophyte when it comes to this state. I'm not adverse to saying I'm a little ignorant when it comes to Washington state politics, but that's why I'm here in the flesh. I'm here to learn. And when I come to a new state, I really am a sponge. I want to listen to the people. I want to shut my trap, ironically enough, and open my ears. And what does Washington state want? And so a lot of the next 9 events in 5 days are going to be listening and learning. And at this point, I'm here to reach every voter, because Washington, dare I say, we need change in the state, and the only way that we're going to do it is a game of addition, not subtraction. And so I'm here to build a big, beautiful tent that is going to be all-inclusive and hopefully galvanize and coalesce voters together.
What would you say to people here in Washington? And I know what I would say to them, because the Seattle mayor's vote, the difference was 1,900 votes. I say to people, every single vote matters. What do you say to disenfranchised voters who may think, oh, voter fraud, or may think anything else? What would you say to them? What's your message to them?
Well, look at 2024. I think our biggest problem going into 2024 was making voters believe that we could win. Because what did I hear from everybody? Scott, they're going to cheat. Scott, they're going to rig it. Scott, it's going to be a stolen election. Guys, we won. We won the popular vote, and dare I say, if Washington voters didn't come out and vote, if Oregon didn't come out, if California didn't come out, Donald Trump wouldn't have won the popular vote. And again, you would have had a repeat of 2016 when they go, oh, it's the Electoral College, that's how Republicans rigged it. No, we won everything. We did it fair and square. And so my message is, our biggest problem now is getting every beautiful Trump supporter that voted in 2024 to vote in every single election. And I'm here to go, well, I understand that we're a vote-by-mail state and there isn't a lot of election integrity. That's why I'm here to create positive change at the ground level, create some election integrity, get people out in 2026. Hopefully we can get a different governor in 2026, and that's how we create change, but it has to start at the local level.
Just in the last few minutes we have with you, you were in the Jewish communities in New Jersey.
Yes.
We didn't manage to flip New Jersey this time, but what did you learn from being in those communities this time, from recruiting in those communities and the voter registration?
I'd say it's a very untapped community, and they really enjoyed being seen, being heard. That's what any voter wants. And I get that being America First, being MAGA, is very big tent, and I'm speaking broadly about putting the American citizens first. But let's be real, though. What makes Democrats successful is they tell different minority communities when they say Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, white working class, whatever, whether we as Republicans acknowledge it or not, they're saying to that community specifically, I see you, I hear you, I acknowledge you. And I think that's one thing that we can do better as a Republican Party, especially if we're going to go to places like Washington and maybe focus on Native Americans, or when I go to New Mexico speaking to that community, or when I go to Pennsylvania and I'm talking to the Amish, or I go to New Jersey and I'm talking to Lakewood and the Jewish community. Do a better job of reflecting upon that. And I will say they were thrilled we were there. And they just want politicians that are really going to peacefully fight for them and show up. Republicans have to show up. Otherwise, you're not going to get a vote.
I completely agree, and I'll say it is I'm so happy to see you here, because I've been talking about wanting you to come out here for so long. I'm so happy we're on your radar. And
Yes.
you give me, the radio host who does this all day, a ray of hope, a ray of sunshine. So hopefully you're able to do that with everybody else out here. I really appreciate your time.
Well, I'm going to make a pitch. Please, I know this is Ari's show here, but Washington, I need your help. We have until, I think, January 2nd to collect 350,000 signatures in order to get proof of citizenship for voter registration in the state of Washington. Everyone I talk to, Ari, says that they want election integrity. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners and your audience do too. Well, I need you to go from just being a watcher of Ari and a listener of his to being an activist, turning your anger into positive action. And so the Washington State GOP on their website, you can download petitions. Each form has 20. You know who the Trump people in your neighborhood are because you're loud and outspoken. If you actually put a Trump sign in your yard in Washington, go to those homes, get their signature, and mail the forms to the Washington GOP office. And then you can help make sure that we're having election integrity on the ballot in 2026. And so I ask for your help. Come to one of our events like here in Gig Harbor all across the state, and I thank you for the opportunity to have a platform on your space.
Thank you so much for coming out here, man. Really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
It was great to meet him in person. It was great to be out at this event, and it was great that so many KVI listeners came out to this event. And what's funny is some people who showed up a little late go, I didn't even know it was you there because they know me by the voice, not the way I look because I'm the radio guy. Don't worry, there will be more events, my friends. There will be more events. We'll tell you about them. But right now, if you want to sign these documents, look over at the Washington State GOP website. They will have where Scott Presler is going to be. He's going to be around all week. I think they got 300 people at a 10 o'clock meeting this morning. So he's around all week, but there's going to be more events after that, and we'll make sure to tell you about them on the show. When we come back, Bob Ferguson went to the movies with the Seattle Times. They didn't discuss politics. They discussed movies. Yeah, they're really holding our elected officials accountable. We'll tell you what happened when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the show. Just a reminder to head on over to KVI.com. Check out my latest articles. Got a new one up there about how the left tried to stop the event with Scott Presler in Gig Harbor yesterday. Head on over to KVI.com. While you're there, sign up to become a KVI Insider. So you get our emails about all the latest happenings and updates about events, contests, and so much more. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Scott in Gig Harbor. Scott, what's going on?
Hey, I was just calling to give some positive feedback. We were at the event last night and meeting you and listening to you and listening to Scott speak, as well as the other two young speakers that were there. You'll have to forgive me. I do not remember their names, but they were amazing. Wanted to let you know, you said to call if we got our sheets filled out. We went out last night, got all of our signature, all our initiatives, got a page each.
Excellent. So, that's wonderful. For each of the initiatives or just one? Which one were you doing?
No, each one.
Fantastic. So, you're going to mail them back? You're going to take them in yourself?
We'll probably just mail them in, but was on the way home from work, listened to Scott's interview, and that was amazing. So I wanted to put that positive feedback out there. The event was great, and there's so many people that just it's not hard. You just got to make the effort. So.
That's very kind of you to say, Scott. I'm really glad you guys did that because sometimes, we go to these events and, sometimes they're at strip malls and it's just people driving by and maybe you get 5 signatures or 10 signatures. But the fact that like 150 people showed up yesterday and that all these other events Scott has been doing have only been growing and growing. I think I saw the one yesterday in Marysville had 300-400 people at it. I heard something about the one this morning had 200 or 300 people at it. It's amazing. And this shows how passionate people are about this.
Yeah, so I hope, and I agree. So I hope everybody will stay motivated and we can get this done. I believe it.
I appreciate the call. I appreciate the feedback. And Scott, I appreciate you coming to the event. Thanks so much for calling in and telling me that. Really do appreciate it. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Remember, my friends, if you haven't signed these things yet, you can request them from the Washington State GOP. You can request them from Let's Go Washington, and they will mail them to your house. And even if it's just you and a spouse, or just you and your kids, or whatever the case may be, you can mail it back to them. They come in an envelope. You can just send it right back, but realize how easy it is. Just go around and ask your friends, your family. You can get a page done by yourself. We got 3 pages sitting here at KVI. Young Zach's collecting signatures. We got them sitting right here. And you know something else? You'd bet the Seattle Times isn't going to cover any of this stuff, right? You know what the Seattle Times was busy covering this weekend? Headline: we went with Governor Bob Ferguson to the movies to watch Bob Ferguson. I kid you not. This is what the Seattle Times is covering. Governor Bob Ferguson is a lawyer, a politician, a chess master. He's disciplined and businesslike, a father of teenagers. Another Bob Ferguson is a madcap doofus, a washed-up former domestic terrorist, his memory fried from years of weed and booze, and a father of a teenager. This second Bob Ferguson is played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is the main character in one battle after another in action chase comedy, that with violent protests, paramilitary law enforcement, and harrowing immigration roundups, speaks more directly to our political moment than perhaps any movie in recent memory. Everybody I know who's seen this movie said it was terrible, said it was absolutely terrible. I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to pass judgment on it, but you guys went to the movies with Bob Ferguson, and not just that. This movie came out 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago? Did you have to rent a theater and get them to put this thing back in theaters? That's what you guys do when you have an interview with the governor? How about you ask about the largest tax increase in state history? How about you ask about him going back on every promise he made during his inaugural address? How about you talk to him about how rent control is going to limit the number of units we have around here because developers won't want to build? Instead, you're talking about a Leonardo DiCaprio movie. This is what the Seattle Times is spending their time on. Is it any wonder why they're losing subscribers? Cancel your subscriptions. They probably just did it for the clickbait, knowing people like me are going to pick it up and make fun of it. Do not read this article. It's complete garbage. It's anti-everything you want. It's complete garbage. In the meantime, head on over to KVI.com. You can get good articles there, like my interview with Scott Presler. When we come back, my friends, looks like there's some movement. Looks like President Trump might be about to sell Saudi Arabia F-35 fighters. What does that mean for what's going on in the Middle East? We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Thanksgiving costs are going up, and that's not good news for the Trump administration or the Republican Party. But before we get to any of that, time for a story you're not going to get anywhere else.
Talk Radio 570 KVI, an Ari Hoffman Show exclusive.
We see that now Katie Wilson and Zoran Mamdani are becoming best friends, talking about a coast-to-coast partnership. Well, when she was running for office, everybody focused so much on her bad fiscal policies, on her bad housing policies, on her bad public safety policies. And so what a lot of people missed is that she is just as jihadi as Zoran Mamdani. The Council on American Islamic Relations, an organization named by federal prosecutors as an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest terror financing case in U.S. history, celebrated Socialist Seattle Mayor-elect Katie Wilson's win, claiming her victory as proof of a political shift that benefits its agenda. I've been warning you about these guys for how long? In a statement posted on social media, CARE declared, that's the Council for American Islamic Relations, congratulations to Katie Wilson on her historic win as Seattle's first millennial mayor. It was an incredibly tight race and hard-fought victory. Wilson's grassroots campaign and commitment to equity and affordability prevailed. The victory shows the growing power of community-driven, progressive leadership. CARE endorsed Wilson in the race, though Wilson notably did not list the organization on her official campaign website, hoping you wouldn't notice. Instead, she highlighted the endorsement of the American Muslim Advancement Council, a far lower-profile group. Wilson, we all know, is the co-founder of the far-left activist group, the Transit Riders Union, has increasingly been under the microscope after she revealed in an interview that she dropped out of Oxford University 6 weeks before graduation. At the age of 43, is still living off her parents. Her campaign previously faced scrutiny over allegedly fabricating an endorsement from black civil rights figure Claude Burfett, an accusation that raised questions about the legitimacy of her broader supporter network. Wilson's comments on Israel also align closely with CARE's rhetorical positions. She has falsely referred to a genocide in Gaza, signaled openness to boycotting Israel, and taking positions that Jewish leaders in Seattle have openly expressed concerns about. Multiple Jewish political groups backed her opponent, and this was a guy who turned over the streets of Seattle to Hamas for the last 2 years, who allowed bridges and highways to be taken over. This is a guy who had no problem whatsoever that his alma mater was taken over by a violent anti-Semitic encampment. Screenshots circulating among local Jewish organizations appear to show Wilson endorsing hardline pro-Hamas activist talking points about Israel and Gaza, leading to further alarm among community leaders. The political ties between Wilson and CARE come as the organization seeks to expand influence across Washington state and around the country. While CARE continues to brand itself as the nation's leading Muslim civil rights organization, its history has been marked by deep controversy. In the Holy Land Foundation case, the largest terror financing trial in U.S. history, federal prosecutors named CARE as an unindicted co-conspirator after the foundation was convicted of funneling millions of dollars to Hamas, a designated terrorist organization. Now, the Holy Land Foundation, for those of you who don't know, it was the largest Muslim charity in the U.S. Imagine if the Salvation Army, for sake of argument, was found to have links to terror. Yes, the violent militia wing of the Salvation Army. Imagine if they were found to have links to terror. That's what it is equivalent to. So what you're telling me is that the group who was linked as an unindicted co-conspirator now has links to terror? Oh, shocking, shocking, shocking. The Biden administration previously severed ties with CARE due to evidence presented in the trial linking its founders and leadership to Hamas-connected networks. In addition, let's not forget their executive director, Nihad Awad, said in November 2023 that he was happy to see Hamas's October 7th attack in Israel just weeks earlier, an assault that killed more than 1,200 people, including widespread rape, kidnapping, and 250 civilians, including Americans, being kidnapped, marking the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. The praise for Hamas's massacre prompted condemnation from members of Congress and Jewish groups who accused CARE's leaders of openly glorifying terrorism. Awad subsequently doubled down on similar rhetoric, framing the events of October 7th as resistance, further reinforcing CAIR's longstanding ties to groups and narratives aligned with Hamas. These are the people backing Katie Wilson. These are the people celebrating her victory. Do you not understand that she is just an empty vessel that is being used by all these radical activist groups? Because as they say, you know, the engine's running, but there's no one behind the wheel. That's Katie Wilson. At CAIR's recent 31st anniversary gala in Washington, D.C., the radical organization honored Mahmoud Khalil, who organized Hamas-aligned activism at Columbia. Khalil organized anti-Israel rallies, led the takeover of Hamilton Hall, trapping custodial staff inside, was accused of distributing Hamas propaganda. He was later detained by immigration officials and ultimately ordered deported by a federal judge before he was brought back. Despite this, CAIR celebrated him as his 2025 champion of justice. Let's not forget, this guy was also at Zoran Mamdani's election night party as an honored guest. The gala also featured several other controversial figures, including anti-Semitic Representative Ilhan Omar, who has repeatedly been criticized for her crazy statements, progressive pundit Cenk Uygur, Georgetown researcher Badr Khan Suri, who was detained by the Department of Homeland Security for spreading Hamas propaganda and maintaining ties to a senior Hamas advisor. CAIR also honored attorneys who represented Ramieza Uzturk, who's a prominent BDS activist celebrated by the organization. Also featured at the event was activist Linda Sarsour, who was ousted from the Women's March over anti-Semitism last week. Internal Democratic Socialists of America documents and public statements revealed that the organization's New York City branch, backed by Sarsour, is working to pressure newly elected Mayor Zoran Mamdani to advance an explicitly socialist and anti-Israel agenda from City Hall. How much do they actually have to pressure him, though? They're saying, oh, he works for us. Well, yeah, he's one of your board members. The DSA's anti-war working group strategy notes calls for divesting city funds from Israeli bonds, cutting NYPD ties with the Israeli military, and even arresting Israeli officials for alleged war crimes. Policy Sarsour publicly pledged to enforce from outside Mamdani's administration. In a live stream, she warned supporters electing Zoran doesn't mean we're going to let him do whatever the hell he wants, vowing to hold him accountable to dismantling the NYPD's counterterrorism unit and advancing DSA priorities. The plans show how Sarsour and the DSA are seeking to turn municipal power into a vehicle for anti-Israel activism that aligns with the broader ideological agenda of groups like CAIR. In the 2025 election cycle, CAIR Action, the organization's political arm, endorsed or publicly celebrated a slate of Democratic candidates across Washington and the U.S. Katie Wilson is just the tip of the iceberg. You know how many people they support here in the Washington State Legislature? Senator Tom Cotton, Republican from Arkansas, sent a letter to the IRS Commissioner Billy Long in August urging a review of CAIR's 501c3 nonprofit status. He argued that the organization had deep ties to terror organizations, including Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, and said tax-exempt status should not subsidize such groups. Representative Elise Stefanik, who's now running for governor of New York, joined Cotton in requesting that the U.S. Treasury Department examine whether CAIR's funding and activities violated sanctions on Hamas. Earlier this month, Representative Chip Roy demanded that the tax-exempt status be stripped from organizations like CAIR with ties to terror. The case could not be more obvious. And yet, even though you have this insanity going on, even though you have this craziness happening, recent studies are showing that the left is actually turning against Israel. Now, for those of you who claim, oh, it's not America first, blah, 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 it's just not true. And let me tell you why. Because the same people that want to destroy Israel are the same people that want to destroy America. Here's something else. You like the military? You know where a lot of those weapons are tested? Israel invents a lot of those weapons, and then the U.S. puts them into production because they have to fight for their own personal safety. You want to know how much worse this can get? Do you not realize that Israel's the canary in the coal mine? It is the last outpost of Western civilization out there in the Middle East. People don't get that. It's more than just an ally, what's happening out there. What happens to them happens to us here. Now, the UN Security Council, just a little while ago, voted in support of Trump's Gaza peace plan, which is really incredible. They voted to support the plan and for a UN mandate to establish an international stabilization force that is expected to be deployed to the Gaza Strip. Out of the 15 Security Council members, 13 voted for the proposal while Russia and China abstained. Why did Russia and China abstain? Russia and China are allies with Iran. This starts isolating Iran more and more and more. The 5 permanent members of the Security Council are U.S., UK, Russia, China, and France. 10 other countries have temporary membership, including Algeria, Denmark, Greece, Pakistan, Panama, South Korea, Sierra Leone, Slovenia, and Somalia. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, said before the session began that the international community must commit to disarming Hamas, and Israel make sure that happens one way or another. Now, what's happening right now is the Hamas terrorists are still in tunnels underneath Gaza, and they're refusing to surrender. Let's not forget the peace plan says they don't go on trial for war crimes. They get to go home as long as they leave the country. Yes, even active terrorists get to leave, but they're refusing to do so. Hamas rejected the passing of the resolution, saying it fails to meet the Palestinians' rights and demands to impose international trusteeship on Gaza Strip, and that Palestinian and resistant factions oppose. Quote, assigning the international force with tasks and roles inside the Gaza Strip, including disarming the resistance, strips itself of neutrality and turns it into a party to the conflict in favor of the occupation, said the terror group. Yes, let's listen to the terror group that murdered over 1,200 people, raped God knows how many more, kidnapped over 250 people. Yes, let's listen to them. Give me a break. Now, what's going on right now is President Trump said today they're going ahead with selling F-35s to Saudi Arabia. Why are they going ahead with selling F-35s to Saudi Arabia? Some people are very, very upset about this. Well, here's the thing. If you want Saudi Arabia to be one of the leaders in this peace process, because don't forget, whatever Saudi Arabia does, the entire Middle East does this. You got to bribe them with something. Hate to say it. That's how international relationships are made. I mean, look, we've sold weapons to Iran. They still have F-14 Tomcats. Didn't you see the Maverick movie? Yeah, that wasn't even made up. That wasn't even a joke. They actually do have those. But you sometimes have to sell these kind of things. And when you do that, you're kind of hoping that Saudi Arabia is going to take care of Iran or take care of business or take care of other terrorist groups. And you hope that by doing this, you're actually going to get them into the Abraham Accords. Now, does any of this really matter? Because you're seeing so many people turn against Israel. Erin Moran, she's a podcaster, used to be over on Sky News down in Australia, had on Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, for an interview the other day. Here's what he said.
You were a few moments late, clearly running a country, so you're forgiven, but I'm glad you were, because this headline just dropped, and I want to start the interview by asking for your reaction to it. It's on the Axios news site, and it says, Scoop, Israel seeks 20-year military aid deal with US with America First tweaks. Is that correct?
I don't know what they're talking about. My direction is the exact opposite. When I first became prime minister in 1996, I went to the U.S. Congress, and we were receiving financial aid and military aid. And I said, the first thing is, we're going to build a high-tech, free market capitalist economy. We don't need the financial aid. Phase it out. And everybody gasped. How dare he, this young prime minister, eager for a PR title. He's giving up billions of dollars. And I was happy to do it, and I was right to do it. So we got rid of that. Now I want to make our arms industry independent, totally as independent as possible. So my direction is the exact opposite. I don't know who's talking for Israel. I do. So follow what I say, not what is put forward in some leaks that are not true.
So, Prime Minister, you think it's time to cut military aid entirely from the U.S.?
I think it's time to assure that Israel is independent. Understand that our military aid is like a fraction, a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what the U.S. spent in Afghanistan or spent in the Middle East. It's tiny. But, I think that we have a very strong economy. We have a very strong arms industry. And it's true that even though we get what we get, which we appreciate, 80% of that is spent in the United States. So it produces jobs in the United States. But nevertheless, I'd like to see a much more independent Israeli, and even more independent Israeli defense industry. And remember that Israel doesn't ask others to fight for us. Israel is the one American ally in the world that says we don't need boots on the ground. We don't need American servicemen fighting, on the ground for Israel or around Israel. We're fine. We fight our own battles, but in doing so, we also serve important American interests, like preventing countries that chant death to America from having nuclear bombs to throw at America, and so on. So my direction is independence. My direction is not greater dependence. My direction is greater independence, and I'll probably have something to say about that very soon.
What's a realistic timeline for that?
Oh, I think we're already we're already going there. In fact, this afternoon I'm having a very important meeting exactly on this subject.
That's right. And I've been saying this for ages. People who don't want aid going to foreign countries, Israel doesn't want it either. They got to wean themselves off it, but they don't want it either, because what happens when a Joe Biden comes around and says, yeah, you can't use that on Iran? You're lucky you got President Trump in office who says, yeah, we're going to help you bomb Iran. And let's not forget the intelligence sharing that goes on between these two countries, and also the aid that goes to Israel. Israel uses that to buy American weapons. U.S. is actually making their money back on that as opposed to other countries they have this with. That's one of the big digs from the American First crew. Why is my money going overseas? Well, look, a lot of people who support Israel, like myself, don't want to go in there anymore either. I don't want Israel having to answer to the next Joe Biden or AOC or who knows who's going to be next. Yet a lot of young people don't understand this at all. All they've seen is the protests going on for over 2 years now at this point. John Fetterman was actually discussing this with Barry Weiss of what's happening inside the Democrat Party.
My heart breaks for what the Jewish communities suffered, especially after 10/7. I've had the honor of meeting, members of the hostages, former people that were kept underground for 500 days. I mean, those are heroes. I've met with widows. Their husbands were lost in the Gaza war, and they have 8 children, raising 8 children by their own. That's a hero for all of it. So for me, it's heartbreaking. And that's been what's so difficult for me is like being devotion to Israel becoming increasingly incompatible with being a proud Democrat now too. And that's put me at odds. And the things that put me at odds have all converged at the same time. The Gaza war, the peace deal, and then we moved right into a shutdown. Like now Democrats might not be allowed to hold these views.
So then I got a question. Can we trade Marjorie Taylor Greene for John Fetterman? Is there anyone else you would want to do that with? John Fetterman sounds more pro-America and more common sense than somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Holy cow, weirder things have happened. I did not have liking John Fetterman on my 2024 or 2025 bingo card, my friends. When we come back, lots more to discuss. Cautionary tales for the GOP. If the Trump administration doesn't do something about the rising costs for Thanksgiving, they're going to have real problems in 2026. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is and download the KVI app. That way you never miss a minute of the show. Also, while you're subscribing to podcasts, remember to rate and share. That way your friends can enjoy it as well. This is a cautionary tale for the GOP. Wholesale turkey prices are up this year by 70%. Now, there's a lot of reasons why. But going out there and talking about how great the economy is, did you guys not see what happened during the Biden administration? When you say things are down pennies or things are so cheap and people don't actually see it, they begin to wonder if they can trust you. Now, there are reasons the wholesale turkey prices are up this year. Number one, we are still coming out of the shortage because they killed so many birds during the bird flu. Remember that insanity during the Biden administration? But try explaining that to the average American. According to Farm Progress, turkey prices have jumped over 70% in comparison to this time in 2024. Other items traditionally used for Thanksgiving, such as potatoes, butter, and others, have seen smaller jumps or some declines in pricing. In some places, such as New York City, Thanksgiving dinner is up to 23% overall. Now, you and I both know that a place like New York, we don't necessarily know what's affecting the costs. We know here in Washington, why are eggs still expensive while they've gone down everywhere else? Because we have these crazy rules regarding free-range chickens. We have that, which jacked up the egg prices, which Democrats did. Our fuel costs are insane here in Washington. And when your energy costs are up, everything else gets more expensive. According to the New York Post, a survey of 2,000 U.S. adults found that this year's Thanksgiving celebration, including food, costs for attending gatherings, and other expenses, will be the most expensive Thanksgiving for Americans. Texas A&M's AgriLife Extension Service economist and Professor David Anderson said, "You may see higher prices on some items, but remember that grocery stores always have a strategy for Thanksgiving." He said, wholesale prices, which are $1.68 a pound this year compared to 99 cents a pound in 2024, two factors have influenced the spike, including the avian flu, as well as lower overall production of turkeys. Well, yeah, when you have less birds, they don't make more baby birds. We all know this, right? Do you need a birds and the bees discussion? Oh, come on. I get one for that. Questions regarding the price of yearly feast have been brought up as Walmart touted its Thanksgiving bundle. In a post from President Donald Trump, he cited Walmart's CEO, who stated that the price for Thanksgiving bundle this year at the retail giant is 25% less in cost than the bundle last year. Quote, Walmart just announced that the prices for a Thanksgiving dinner is now down by 25% since under sleepy, crooked Joe Biden in 2024. Affordability is a Republican stronghold. Hopefully Republicans will use this as irrefutable fact. However, many were quick to point out there are only 15 items in the 2025 bundle, while there were 21 in the bundle for 2024. A graphic showing the disparity in items spread online after the president posted about the Thanksgiving meal. This is a cautionary tale for the GOP. In fact, J.D. Vance was talking about this last week.
I know that there are a lot of people out there, Sean, who are saying things are expensive. And we have to remember they're expensive because we inherited this terrible inflation crisis from the Biden administration. But you've already seen signs that things are getting better. The price of eggs has gone way down. The price of energy has gone way down. The price of gasoline has gone way down. And as we know, when the price of energy goes down, that starts to filter out into the entire economy, but that also takes a little bit of time. There's another component of this, Sean, which to me is maybe the most important because I care so much about our young people being able to afford a good life. A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who were taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had. So what we're doing is trying to make it easier to build houses, trying to make it easier to build factories and things like that so that people have good jobs. We're also getting all of those illegal aliens out of our country, and you're already seeing it start to pay some dividends.
Now, that's true. He's not wrong, but it's going to take a little bit more than that. And one of the things that's affecting prices is tariffs. Like it or not, the tariff policy, it's nice we're all going to see a check hopefully in mid-2026, But guys, I'd rather see a reduction in prices. Don't get me wrong, I've been paying taxes my whole life. I would love the government to send me a big fat check. But I'd rather they reduce prices, because otherwise that check is going bye-bye very, very quickly. There's an article in Breitbart that I don't know who wrote this thing. I kind of wonder if they had AI write it for them, or if they are just such defenders of President Trump that they're looking at the survey, and it's almost like they're reading a different survey than I am. Here's what they say. A sweeping new analysis of tariff policy spanning 150 years suggests the economic establishment may have fundamentally misunderstood how tariff affects prices and employment, a finding with profound implications for understanding President Donald Trump's trade policy and the proper response by Federal Reserve. Researchers at the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco examined major tariff changes from 1870 through 2020 across the United Nations, the United Kingdom, and France. Their conclusion challenges the conventional wisdom that dominated economic policy debates in recent years. When countries raise tariffs, prices actually fall, not rise. I didn't believe this. I didn't believe this. So I went and looked up the study itself. That's not what the study says. Do you know what the study says? If you put tariffs on things, eventually they become so expensive people stop buying them, or you have other economic problems, then the cost goes down. Let me put this a simpler way for you. You know that the Democrats are trying to do everything possible to get you out of your car here in Washington state. So what they're trying to do is make it so expensive you don't want to drive anymore. That's, for example, the registration. They say, oh, it's so much cheaper to just take the light rail and mass transit. You don't want to be paying all that money for renewing your car tabs every year. Or how about this? Gas prices. They want to slap that tax on you, get as much money as they possibly can, and hope you're going to say, I don't want to drive as much anymore. That's what they're hoping. That's kind of what happens with tariff policy. What if I said from the beginning, if you're using tariffs as leverage so that you can get other countries to compete with you equally, fine, wonderful, fantastic. You want them to bring down the prices that they charge on tariffs on our products? Fine, 100% with that. But the second we start jacking up the tariffs, the people who are actually paying for it are the consumer, just like you and me paying for the gas prices here in Washington state. We're the ones paying for it. Whether we're buying food, whether we're buying clothing, whether we're buying transformers, whatever we're buying, it becomes more expensive. And we're the ones shouldering the cost for that. That's the problem we have right here. I don't know who wrote this article, but this is a fundamental misunderstanding of what this report actually says, where it actually shows the opposite. Not that tariffs are good, but the tariffs may actually lead to an economic decline. This is something people need to keep an eye on. When we come back, my friends, my address from the Let's Go Washington event with Scott Presler yesterday had over 200 people there, according to somebody who just texted in the show, said they took account for us. We'll give you all that fun when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, check out the new KVI.com. Up there is my interview with Scott Presler. If you missed it, you can watch the whole thing. You can read the article I wrote about some Democrat activists actually trying to stop the event. More on that tomorrow, but you can get it early by heading on over to KVI.com. While you're there, remember to become a KVI insider. That way you can find out about events, contests, and so much more. Well, yesterday, I was at this event for Let's Go Washington, the Washington State GOP down in Gig Harbor. And some of you said you didn't even know about it. You were upset that you missed it. So I spoke to introduce Scott Presler and some really amazing teenagers. Hopefully we're going to get one or two of them on the show this week to actually tell their stories, but about why we were gathering these signatures. These are my remarks from yesterday.
I love coming out to Gig Harbor. In the summers, I love driving the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, and I love going over that thing and seeing the view. And people ask me all the time when I'm on Fox, when I'm on Newsmax, they do this little preamble beforehand where they talk to you, and they just ask you random questions, how you doing, how's the weather, whatever. And the question I always get is, Ari, why do you still live in Washington? Ari, why do you still live in Seattle? And my snarky answer is, because if I didn't, you guys wouldn't have me on your show anymore. When they say, why don't you move down to Florida? I say, as nice as Florida is, this is my home. This is where I live. And why should I leave? Because they suck. So a little bit about my history is that I worked with kids for years. I did a lot of youth outreach. You basically call me a Jewish youth pastor, for lack of a better word. And I always say, when people start messing with the kids, that's a no-no for me. So we've got two initiatives here. And I'll tell you about, we have three initiatives here. I'll tell you about the first two by our friends at Let's Go Washington. And thank you to Brian Haywood and everybody at Let's Go Washington for organizing this event today. I know all these people. I've been working with these people for a couple of years, and you know how easy it would have been for them to say, yeah, we can go to California, we can go to Florida, we can move to Texas, we can move out of here. Instead, like me, like all of you, they said, no, we're going to stay and fight. So you've got I-001, which is about the parental rights. Now, I'll tell you a little story about my own son. And my kids go to private school. They go to Jewish private schools because there's not much religion in the public schools. But my kids go to Jewish private school, and my son came home one day with his textbook from history class. And he said, Dad, haven't you spoken about this book on your show before? And it's Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. Now, for those of you who don't know about this book, it's basically commie propaganda. But it's also hugely anti-Semitic. And they were teaching this in a Jewish school. Now, to the school's credit, as soon as I took it to them, they freaked out and didn't realize what it was. And when I said to the teacher, what's this all about? He goes, I'm so sorry. He felt terrible. He says, I'm in a Facebook group with other teachers, and when I asked, what's the best history book, they said this one. Wow. This can happen anywhere. Anywhere, anytime. You don't know. Here's something else. Our friends over at Future 42, Let's Go Washington, Change Washington, had a wonderful event this summer out in Renton. They brought in all these speakers for an event, and one of them was Abigail Schreier. And Abigail Schreier was telling everybody the story about these psychological evaluations they now do on your kids. I don't know how many of you have been for your annual physical recently, but I know when I went for my annual physical, there were all these questions about depression I never saw before. Well, now they're giving them to your kids in school at the beginning of the year. You are allowed to opt out of those, and most people don't know that. I didn't know that we had signed it for my daughter. I didn't know because how many forms do you get as a parent where you sign into these things and have no idea what it is? You can opt out of these forms. I had a family tell me that their daughter was all of a sudden being recommended for homework help at the University of Washington Homework Center. So they were recommending something like that for my daughter, and we realized, University of Washington, whoa, wait a minute, who's at University of Washington? And all of a sudden you start looking into it, and when you talk to this homework center, You say, well, what are you going to be talking to my daughter about? What are you going to tell me about? If she has issues with suicide, will you tell me about that? Oh, yes, absolutely. If she's interested in self-harm, will you tell me about that? Absolutely. What about if she wants to cut off healthy parts of her anatomy? Will you tell me about that? Nope. Isn't that a form of self-harm? Well, you can opt out of these, and most of you probably don't know your kid is opted in for this and took those evaluations. You can opt out. So I want to promise from everybody here in the room who has kids, I want you to go check with the school tomorrow and say, I want the opt-out forms for these psychological evaluations. You all promise you're going to do that? Yeah.
Yes.
And I got a second thing. When you do that, not if you do that, are you going to call or text my show at 206-421-5757 between the hours of 3 and 6 tomorrow and tell me about it, so that way everybody who's not here today will find out about it. Can you do that for me? Fantastic. Thank you. The other initiative about keeping boys and men out of girls' sports. I am a Jewish man and I am not very athletic, as you can see in front of you. If I want to compete in girls' sports, I probably would have done okay, but that's cheating. That's cheating. But more so than that, it's theft. You're taking awards from these girls that deserve it and worked so hard for it, whose parents spent hours driving their kids back and forth to these practices. It's theft. And then think about all the kids who are doing it for credit, all the kids who are doing it just because they want to play sports, because they have no ambitions. Think about those kids. What, you want to risk a lifelong injury because some dude who couldn't compete at the dude level served a volleyball at you so hard you hit your head on the ground and you had a concussion, you have brain injuries the rest of your life? That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I worry about my own daughter just because she was in cross country for 5 minutes. Who's she running against? Who's actually going to shove her out of the way? Why should boys or men be competing in girls' sports? And anybody who wants to do that, I think they may need that psychological evaluation I was talking about earlier. Lastly, we have our friends at the GOP are running an initiative for voter ID. Yeah. All the stuff we are talking about, you aren't going to get without voter ID. My son lives in Israel, registered to vote online without showing his ID at all. It's insane. No, he did not vote in these elections. He lives in a different country. But he registered to vote when he was a student in Israel. I'm honest. How many people aren't? You know how you keep getting multiple ballots in the mail? You've seen this before, and you go, why is this happening? You are on so many databases, you have no idea. And they just feed that into the voting system. They just put that in there. Here's something else. The Department of Justice asked Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs, hey, we want to take a look at your voter rolls. You know the easiest way to shut up me and anybody who does what I do is to say, here you go, and they're perfectly fine. Why won't they turn them over?
Yep.
We all know why, don't we, sir?
Amen.
We all know why.
That voter rolls.
I will tell you the craziest story I heard about voter ID in this state. Is that, you know, when you register a vehicle, we have motor voter laws. When you register a vehicle, when you get your driver's license, you are registered to vote. Do you know that one of the people ICE rounded up was a sex offender who was literally registering a white panel van? I am not making this up. A white panel van, and was registered to vote here in Washington. This is why you need voter ID. And for anybody who says, my vote doesn't count, my vote doesn't matter, then make it count and make it matter. Scott Presler is here.
Yeah, he is.
I'm not going to take it personally that Scott got a louder round of applause than I did. But Scott Presler is here. Scott could be doing anything else in the world right now. He's a very charming man. And he is out here to guarantee your right to vote, to make sure to protect the integrity of your vote. I really want to thank Scott for coming out because there are so many other places you could be right now. Thank you so much for being here. We have until January 2nd to get this done, to get all these signature pages. I want everybody to take some with you when you leave today and give them out to your friends, even if you get one signature. Do you know what I do when I do ballot harvesting? I moved here to be closer to my wife's family. I go and get every single one of their ballots every time. There's no excuse not to do that. I'm not going to say I help them fill them out at all. Absolutely not. I don't do that at all. But there's no reason you can't do the exact same thing because the Democrats are doing this by the hundreds. Take those forms with you, even if you get one signature, and take them to your churches, and take them to your other institutions that you hang out at, and take them to the schools, and take them to the swim meets, and the track meets, and the basketball games. Take them to all of that, and say, you want to make sure your daughter gets a fair shot at a title? Fill this out.
Now, if you want to hear more about that, I'm going to be posting more of the clips from that, including my interview with Scott Presler over on social media. You can find it over at Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on Twitter. All of them are consolidated in one article over at kvi.com. So head on over there if you missed the event yesterday, and there will be more events. We'll make sure we share them on social media and tell you about them when we know about them. You can find more details about them at KVI. You can find them in that article. You can also find them over on the Washington GOP website and the Let's Go Washington website. Only good news to wrap up the show. Good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our cheesy good news headlines, I just want to tell you this. It was so nice to see so many of you yesterday, and so nice to see how many people said they missed the event. Ari, why would you say it's nice to see they missed the event? Because they cared enough to want to show up. This is something I haven't really seen since I got into this world, which is people going, I'm excited to change our state, and we think there's hope. It's been a while since we really had that. It's not just because of Scott Presler. It's not just because of Let's Go Washington. It's not because of the Washington GOP. But it's because people go, this is the way, Mandalorian style. Where they go, this is how we fix things. If we have complaints about them, this is how we fix them. And it's not through violence. And it's not through rioting. It's not through complaining. Occasionally it's through memes. But no, what it's really about is just going, this is how we fix things. And remember, if you want to sign these initiatives, check out Washington GOP website, check out the Let's Go Washington website. Other places where you can see good things on the horizon, Mariners did okay this year. Well, now Mariners fan favorite Josh Naylor is sticking with the Emerald City, according to Como News. Jeff Pazan, sports reporter, reported that Naylor and the Seattle Mariners are in the process of finalizing a 5-year contract. He is the first major free agent to sign this winter. He was a major part of the Mariners' playoff push, as the team came one game away from the World Series. Quote, the Mariners made Josh Naylor their top priority entering the winter, and his excellence down the stretch got him a long-term deal to join Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, and the Mariners' rotation as a foundational piece, Passan wrote on X. His energy was infectious. Seattle didn't want to lose this. The Mariners have a lot of time to bring back the team or retool, but Naylor was the team's top priority, according to general manager Justin Hollander. So that's good news for Mariners fans. Absolutely good news. And I'll tell you something else. I'm already buying tickets for next year. I got tickets to the Mets games. I got tickets for the synagogue. I'm excited for next year, and I'm probably the most skeptical of the Mariners because I'm kind of a bandwagon fan. I got my team in New York. But really, I have hope for next year. You should too. That's going to do it for us today, my friends. But fear not, we'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and more fun as always. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.